And a very good afternoon, good morning, depending on which time zone you happen to be in. Welcome to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Also podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms such as iHeartMusic and, of course, Spotify. Okay, iHeartRadio, Amazon, we're all over. So there's no problem getting a hold of us whenever you want to. So thank you very much for listening. It's Thursday. We're on the downward side after yesterday's hump day. You have today, tomorrow, then you've got the weekend coming up. And of course, the whole day today, we're going to spend talking about the NFL, talking about football. Football will be king today on this show, that's for sure. Of course, we'll go talk about the three games we have on tap for today as well, but we're not going to go into as much detail. Just going to tell you who the teams are, and then it's up to you to decide whether you want to bet on them or not. But because we want to spend as much time as we can talking about football. Yesterday, the schedule came out. You found out where your favorite team is going to be playing, when and whom. And of course, the odds came out yesterday. Of course, those are the opening odds. So what does that mean? That means from now on, we're going to be starting to pay attention to the line movement. There already has been some line movement, so we're going to tell you about that as well. So anyway, that's the story. Like I said, you're in the sports wagering zone. The whole day today will be devoted to the NFL, to the schedule that came out yesterday, some of our thoughts and ideas, kind of bring you up to date on some stats that we did put together, things that you should be looking for as far as betting is concerned as we approach opening day in September. So that's the story. We're going to keep an eye on those lines. We'll keep you up to date as to what's going on with them, and that's going to be the situation there. In the meantime, as always, the first thing we do is we kind of take a look at what happened yesterday as far as betting is concerned, kind of give you an idea as to how the favorites and the underdogs fared yesterday. So we're going to start with the National Hockey League. The favorites, as we said, all season long. If you're a hockey bettor and you bet the favorites, you had a very, very good year. The favorites have really been very dominant so far this season. And no change. Yesterday, they went 3-2, but there were two upsets. The Senators, a plus 160 against the Maple Leafs, and the Blues, a plus 137 against the Wild. As far as the over-unders are concerned, the overs went 3-1, and one was a push. The push was Vegas against San Jose at 6. But the unders, they still had the lead as far as that's concerned, almost at 51% for the season. Meanwhile, the first period overs, they went 4-1, but the first period unders still lead at almost 51% as well. Meanwhile, in the NBA, the favorites went 4-2 straight up, but that sounds pretty good. But if you bet the favorites yesterday, you kind of got burned a little. The dogs were barking loud and clear once again. 4-2 against the spread. The Blazers, a 1-point dog against the Jazz. The Cavaliers, a 6-point dog against the Celtics. They pulled outright upsets in the games they played. Not only that, the Wizards, +7 against the Hawks, and the Rockets, a 9-point dog against the Lakers, covered in straight-up losses. So that's the story there. The favorites still lead, but it's already down. It's down to almost 51%, just a tick under 51% on the season. Had 516 wins, 500 losses with 13 pushes. The over-under split yesterday, 3-3. The overs still lead, however, at 50.5%. So in the NBA, although the favorites covered yesterday with some, but the dogs were the big number yesterday. Meanwhile, back in Major League Baseball, the favorites, they went 10-5 yesterday. You had upsets by the A's of plus 137 against the Red Sox, the Tigers of plus 134 against the Royals, the Blue Jays of plus 100 against the Braves, the Rockies a big plus 143 against the Padres, and that was in game 2, and the Marlins had a plus 113 against the Diamondbacks. The White Sox, the minus 132 against the Twins, and they were plus 150 on the line. They're on a 23-1 straight up run against the lefties. The White Sox, 23-1 straight up against the lefties. Okay, they're 21-3 against righties. So after a slow start to the season, the favorites started pushing away a little bit yesterday, although they're still only 54.6% on the season. The unders went 10-4-1 with a push with the Mariners and the Dodgers at 8. That increased the lead to 51.1%. So Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, you know how the favorites, how the dogs did yesterday. That's the story as far as baseball is concerned. So we're going to take our first break. And if you listened to the show before, you know we take 3 breaks. Each one is of 1 minute duration. So we're going to take our break. And then when we do come back, we're going to take a look at the 3 games we have on tap. Again, no great detail on the games, just trying to give you an idea who they are, because we want to spend the rest of the day talking about the scheduling that came out yesterday, with some odds that came out yesterday on all the games, taking a look at some line movement already happening in some of those odds, and also talking about all about the various games that are coming up that you'll be able to watch on TV. So really big, good matchups. Oh, that's how it looks. You know, we've seen this before. We talk about great matchups. They're talking about Tampa Bay going 17-0. You're going to hear all kinds of things like that. We're going to be concerned with one real big situation, and that's going to be, we're going to be looking at those underdogs. We're going to pick out the dogs that we want every week. We're going to tell you about them, and you kind of take it from there. So let's take that first break, and just a reminder that you're in the sports wagering zone. And of course, we will be back into the zone in 60 seconds. And welcome back. We're back in the sports wagering zone. We've had our first break for the day. Going to talk about some baseball to start with. But anyway, thank you for listening. Welcome to the Sports Wagering Zone. If you just tuned in, you can go over to your live right here at Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. That's correct. For sure. Also, we're podcasting. We're on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, even Google, also on Google Podcasts as well. So anyway, thank you very much for listening. Just to let you know, we totally appreciate, we really like you guys listening to the show, getting some real great comments. Emails are coming in, letting us know how we're doing. Because, you know, like I said, we've been doing this show for well over 5 years. We run a bubble. We're kind of, hey, things seem to be working fine. Let's keep doing it this way. hey, sometimes you have to make a little change, and we leave it up to you guys out there to let us know how and when to make those changes to make you happy. So to get a hold of us, once again, it's very simple. Just send an email and send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. So let's take a quick look at baseball, and then we'll get into what happened yesterday as far as the scheduling came out and the first lines that came out as well. So for today, we have three games. The Cardinals against the Brewers, the A's against the Red Sox, and the Yankees against the Rays. In the first game, we're on the Cardinals. They're the underdogs in that particular game against the Brewers. We're on the A's against the Red Sox, and the Yankees against the Rays. Again, we don't want to go into the usual great detail that we talk about each one. Just to let you know real quickly, those are the three games that we've looked at. Those are the three teams that kind of stick out as a bet if you're interested in betting in that direction. To give you an idea as to how well this little system has been working out, yesterday we had three plays, and we had two winners and one loser. We had Baltimore against the Mets, where we have the Mets. We also had the White Sox beating Minnesota, and then we lost on the Miami-Arizona game. We had Arizona and Miami won the game in extra innings as well. So far this season, just to give you an idea how well it's done, we've had 113 plays, 63 wins, 49 losses, 55.7%. 55.7%. Over the past 3 days, we've had two winners and one loser in each situation. I'll tell you, I'll take two winners and one loser every day of the week. So once again, those three teams, we have the Cardinals in the first game against the Brewers, we have the A's against the Red Sox, and we have the Yankees up against the Rays. So that's the story on baseball. That's the story there. Now let's get down to what the whole big news and everything that's going on, and that has to do with NFL football, with the schedule, with the opening lines, things of that nature. So yesterday, as we said, it was scheduled day in the NFL. Yeah, the league officially came out with their 17-game schedule finally for all the 32 teams. Throughout the day, they leaked some of it out, but finally, after 8 o'clock, once it came on Eastern time, you got everything. But by then, most people had the information they needed. This is for the 2021-22 regular season. And of course, it starts September the 9th. It's a Thursday night game because you're going to have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. And who's coming to town? America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. That's going to be about 8:20 p.m. Eastern time on that Thursday night. So here's a full list of the latest released odds for the games for week one. Now, these odds are from BetMGM. Understand something. Whenever we talk about odds on the show, we're talking about Las Vegas odds. They may be a little different from wherever you live, wherever you bet. If you're in New York, you may have a slightly different number than somebody in Colorado or somebody in Michigan or Illinois or even down in Mississippi. So check with your own to get an idea, but not going to be far off of this. That's for sure, okay? To start with that Cowboys-Bucks game, started out somewhere around 4. People talking 4, 4.5. Now it's 6.5. The Bucks are favored by 6.5. So now you got to start looking at games like this with the Bucks. We're going to be looking at games with the Bucks just like we used to look at games when New England was running loose. Okay, do you think they'll cover that kind of a number? Who are they playing against? The Cowboys. Cowboys 6.5-point underdogs against the Bucks in that first game. Then we move to Sunday. You have the Birds game. You have the Eagles and the Falcons. In that game, the Falcons started out 3.5-point favorite in that game. Steelers against the Bills. Bills favorite at 6.5. Jets and the Panthers. Interesting matchup here. Just shows you the NFL, how really intelligent, how smart they are. Jets against the Panthers. The ex-quarterback from the Jets goes to the Panthers, and what do? First game of the season, they play against each other. Panthers favored in that game, 4 points. It's going to be in Charlotte. The Vikings against the Bengals. The Vikings 3-point favorites on the road against the Bengals in Cincinnati. The 49ers travel out to play the Lions. They're at 7.5, minus 7.5 points against the Lions. Then the Jaguars, for the very first lines that came out on the new Jaguar team, 2.5-point favorites against Texas. Well, I think you're going to see a lot of teams favored against Texas. They go down to Texas. This is a road game for the Jaguars. They'll be favorites on the road against Texas in Houston. Meanwhile, the Seahawks travel Midwest to the Colts. Colts are 2.5-point favorites at home. Cardinals and the Titans. The Titans are 2.5-point favorites at home. The Chargers travel out to Washington, going from the West Coast to the East Coast. Once again, we're going to be talking about those type of situations. Some people believe that movement going from West Coast to East Coast, because of the time differences, that there's a certain disadvantage for those teams coming in from the West Coast. And not only that, but this is a 1 o'clock game. So it even makes it worse than if it were, say, a 4:30 game. This comes a little more closer to the time. Meanwhile, the Browns and the Chiefs, Kansas City, the Browns, who have been great anticipation this season, looking forward to a great year. They have to open up against the Chiefs, the best team in the league. -6. They're 6-point favorites. Chiefs, 6-point favorites at home against the Browns. The Dolphins, they go up to New England to play the Patriots. You have 2-point favorites as far as the Patriots are concerned. The Broncos, they travel east to the Giants. They play in New York, they play in New Jersey. Okay, they actually play across the river from New York City. The Browns are favored at 1.5 points. The Bears and the Rams, all these last games are 4 o'clock games. The Bears are going out to Los Angeles to play the Rams. Rams are 7-point favorites in that game. The Ravens travel over to the Raiders. Now you got a team going from the east to the west. Doesn't seem to be much of a factor, although you may believe it is, and you may be right. But most people seem to agree going from the East Coast to the West Coast is not as bad as going from the West Coast to the East Coast. The Ravens, 4.5-point favorites in that particular game on the road. Now, the last remaining Week 1 game, because the Packers and the Saints, as far as BetMGM is concerned, they're off the board, because there's still uncertainty as to who's going to be the quarterback. Will Aaron Rodgers be quarterbacking, or will someone else be quarterbacking? They just signed another quarterback to come in just in case as a backup. So now they've got 3 quarterbacks on the roster. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it. You have to keep an eye on it. Right now, as far as BetMGM is concerned, they are off the board. Okay. And there have been some early moves so far in Week 1. The Jaguars, who started out opening as a 1.5-point favorite, have now moved up to being a 2.5-point favorite against the Texans. The Chargers, who opened up as a 1-point underdog, are now a 1-point favorite at Washington. And the Raiders, who were 5.5-point dogs, are now 4.5-point dogs against the Ravens. Okay, so that's the story there. We're going to take our second break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at some stats. We'll take a look at a couple of the games that are on schedule for this new season coming into play, kind of give you some thoughts and ideas, some statistical data that may be of some help to you as you try to figure out who to bet on as the date gets closer and closer. And believe it or not, we're sitting here talking about it right now. Before you know it, it's going to be here, and we're going to say, hey, you know what? We were just talking about this yesterday. It seems like that's how quick it's going to go. So pay attention, start doing your homework, start getting ready. We're going to give you some thoughts and ideas. when we come back after this second break. So we'll be back into the zone right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as on podcasts such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're there. We're there for you. We're here for you, try to make a better handicapper out of you. Not trying to tell you who to bet on, how much to bet, just trying to give you some data and some thoughts and ideas to kind of work with, and see, it might work for you. You may not like some of the stuff. You may say, hey, that's a good idea. I think I'll try it, or whatever it is. If you, like I always say, if you have a system and you like it and you're doing very, very well, okay, don't worry about it. You may want to tweak it here, tweak it there, because no matter how good your system is, you're always going to come across a situation where you're going to look at a game and both teams are going to look pretty good. Okay, you're not going to be sure which way to go. You're ready to flip that coin. So instead of flipping the coin, you listen to the show, try to get some thoughts and ideas, see how the pros are going, for instance, might help you decide which way to go, and hopefully it's in the right direction. So in the meantime, let's get back to the scheduling and the lines for the opening week of NFL football in September, because in spite of all the numbers we've given you so far, the sportsbook also came out with some early lines for some of the hottest anticipated games, some of the matchups that are going to should be really very noteworthy. Kind of keep an eye on them. For instance, Tom Brady going back to New England. The Bucs are going to face the Patriots in week 4. It's going to be a Sunday night game. October the 3rd, okay? The Bucs opened as a 3.5 point road favorite for Brady against Belichick. And this is round 1, Brady against Belichick. May happen a few times before they're both gone. But it's a 3.5 point favorite as far as the Bucs are coming in on the road into New England. Now, with all these attractive and fresh lines that we've been talking about, it's hard not to want to bet several of these week 1 games right now. You've been sitting there waiting for a while. Now, boom, here they are. I want to get into it right away. But, it might be a better idea just to wait. You know why? I'll tell you. Because, number one, you're going to be tying up your bankroll for 4 months. So you need to have both. You have to have patience and you have some liquidity, so that when you make your futures bets, that's what they're going to be like, okay? But also, there are several unknowns this far out. What if a star player gets hurt in training camp? What if a team pulls off a huge trade? What if a key player decides to opt out, retire? These things go on all the time. And also, as a contrarian bettor, a smart play would be to let these lines kind of gel, try to get things together, let them kind of like a putting together a good meal, getting all the flavors together over the next few months. So let the bets build up. Allow the public to come in and see where they're going to go, see how they shape the odds and go. And that's the important thing, is to go against those prevailing biases. Well, we're going to take another break. I need to get my throat moistened here a minute or two. We come back, we're going to talk about some data that you should be aware of that will help you in making your decision. So just a reminder, we'll be back into the zone right after this message. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. Chris Pardo coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, and having a little problem in my throat this morning, a little dryness today for some reason or other. So, but we're talking about the new schedule that came out, some games that are already in the works, people are thinking about betting on already. So if you're looking to place a week one bet, regardless of what we said with what may happen between now and then, here are a few tips, some data to help you to kind of get you through this. First of all, in week one, we like to bet the dogs. We are contrarian. Last season, we had a great season betting on the dogs. But again, you don't bet on every one. There's certain dogs you have to pick on because they're going to be better off than some of the other dogs. Now, here's some interesting statistics as far as betting on dogs in the first week. Over the past 10 years, week one dogs have gone 54%. Remember, 52.3 when betting football or basketball is your break-even point. The big week, number one, the first week dogs at plus 6.5 or more have gone 61%. So in week one, if the dog is at 6.5 or more, you're at 61%. That's over the past 10 years, okay? Now, the top week one system to play has been divisional dogs, and they are at 58.3%. A divisional dog, 68.3%. The dogs have always crushed week one. And there's some reasons for it. There's logic to it. It's not just doesn't happen, okay? The public loves favorites, all right? So dogs are naturally going to be undervalued. Also, dogs are healthy and optimistic. And opening day variances can really lead to some real upset opportunities, especially nowadays. You right now have 27 states that have legalized betting. Between now and then, you may get 2 or 3 more that come into play. These are going to be mostly new bettors bettors who'd never bet before in their lives, or maybe they made a casual bet with a friend, or if they lived on the East Coast or maybe on the West Coast, and there are certain type of people you would meet on the street corner to make your bet with. Those are the only situations they were involved in. For the first time, they're going to jump into the water, and you know what's going to happen because they've done it before. It's nothing new. They're going to bet favorites. They're going to bet home teams. They're going to bet teams with big stars on them as well. So keep that in mind. So if you're looking to start that first week, one of the things you got to look at, and we're going to go over those once again, okay, dogs over the past 10 years have gone 54%. That's all dogs. If you just sat down and just bet dogs only, you were at 54%. Now, dogs in the first week who are at 6.5 points or more are at 61%. But the best system to play, if you're thinking about it, divisional dogs, they're at almost 69%, 68.3 to be exact, okay? And like I said, the reasons are clear. It's very logical. It's not, pie in the sky type of stuff. There's a reason why that happens, not only in football, but in baseball and all sports. Generally, the general public loves to bet favorites. They love to see big scores. They love to see a lot of action. That's a typical bettor. That is a general public bettor. Another thing you want to look at are key numbers. If you're eyeing a week one game, be very aware of key numbers. That's 3, 7, and 10. This question, am I on or off a key number? Now, before you place your bet, you have to ask yourself that question. And this is what I mean. Let's say you like the Vikings against the Bengals. You look around, you shop around, and you try to find 2.5 point dog or 2.5 point favorite instead of a 3 point favorite. That way, a 3 point Minnesota win covers instead of a push, okay? So you're trying to find a 2.5 point favorite number instead of 3 that it's at. Okay, so if you like the Steelers, for instance, keeping it close against the Bills in that first game, look for the Steelers being a 7 point dog instead of a 6.5 point dog. Shop for that extra half a point. We line in the age of sports betting with so many different shops to bet at, you should be able to make a better choice. That's why we preach, deal with more than one sports book. That's the only way you're going to get the best line you possibly can in your area. Okay, put in the work to place your bet with the book that gives you the best number. It could end up being a difference between winning, losing, or pushing. So kind of look at it from that understanding. Also, look to buy low. Okay, one key for betting week one is you're buying on bad news and you're selling on good news. For example, the public's going to be betting week one based on what they remember from each team from the year before. It's just there. It's the way it happens. However, we've seen that this can lead to overvaluing these teams. Now, one system I love is taking teams that missed the playoffs the year before, playing against the teams that made the playoffs. Now, they've covered at 55%, not last year, 2 years ago, but over the past 10-year period as well. Now, Inflated Lines is another story. If you're looking for a fun and easy exercise, grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen. Write down all of the week one lines as they started out today and see how they progress over the next few months. This is going to give you more context into where the pro money is going, and it'll also allow you to identify the inflated line possibilities. For example, the Bucs are currently 6.5 point favorites against the Cowboys on that opening night game. If the public absolutely hammers the Bucs over the next 4 months, and the line goes up to 7.5, that would provide you, as a contrarian, an inflated line opportunity to jump on the Cowboys at plus 7.5, right? So just by going against the grain and doing some homework, you took advantage of a full point of an inflated line value. So now on to Thursday, where we have a loaded betting menu to choose from, including 12 games in the Major League Baseball today. You also have 3 NHL games going on today as well. But those are just some data and some tips. Wanted to let you know about, just kind of give you an idea. I know, maybe an hour, 2 hours from now, tomorrow sometime, this is just going to be faded memories in your mind. That's where, once again, the newsletter comes in handy, because this is where we're going to put this stuff. This stuff will be in a newsletter. You'll have it in an email. You can file it away so you can always refer back to it and say, hey, wait a minute. What's this about week 1 dogs? What are key numbers? 3, 7, 10. What are the lines right now? Let's see, how do we do this? How do we do that? These are things that we're going to be covering, in addition to giving you the early numbers for the baseball games for that particular day. And of course, once the NFL season comes around, we're going to watch those lines. We're going to watch those lines for you as well. We'll be listing those to help you in that direction. All in all, we're here just to try to make a better handicapper out of you, so that, so you make a profit. Not going to be a millionaire. Not going to make a millionaire out of you unless you're betting $100,000 bets. You're going to be betting $50, $100 on games. Understand something. You're not going to make $1 million. That's not the whole idea. The idea is to come out ahead at the end of the season. Have fun betting. Have fun doing the stuff that you're doing, watching the games, stressing out every now and then, trying to see that last-minute fumble just before the gun goes off and your team is on its way to score. You want them to score. They fumble the ball, or they're ahead and it goes the other way. You're going to go through that. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of it all, if you could be out ahead a little bit, over 52.3, 52.4%, hey, it'll be well worthwhile. You had a good time. You had some fun. You had some stress. And then you have some little extra money in your pocket to go out and celebrate a little bit. So that's what we're here for. That's what we want to do. If you're interested, we're working on it. I'm telling you right now, we're going to have it. I think we're going to have it, but we still need a little more support in that direction. So if you're interested in the newsletter, by all means, send us an email. Send that email to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. Like I said, we're going to have data. This is the type of information we're going to talk about it on the air, no doubt about it, but not maybe full extent that we normally would be. But you're going to be getting it in an email that you can file away, that you can refer to as the season gets closer and closer. And then once we get into the season, once we come up with data and statistics of that nature, they'll be there for you as well. So once again, that email address is the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. Let us know if you're interested in participating in the newsletter. In the meantime, the 3 games that we talked about very briefly, because it's NFL Day today on the Sports Wagering Zone. 3 games. Cardinals against the Brewers are on the Cardinals. The A's against the Red Sox are on the A's. And with the Yankees against the Rays, the Yankees have really gotten good. They've gotten hot. So we're kind of staying with them for a while. And that's who the selection is for that. Once again, it's just for you to take a look at, think about it. If you don't want to bet these games, or you're not thinking about betting on them, maybe you were on the fence. Hopefully this will help you go in one direction or another, or just stay away from it completely. Either way, again, as always, we always tell you, we leave it totally up to you. So that's the story for today. Finally made it through the day. Throat got a little dry earlier. I apologize for that. It's just one of those things that happens. It happens more often than not, unfortunately. But anyway, that's the story. So thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. Saturdays and Sundays, we're here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So once again, thanks for listening. We talked about the 3 baseball games. We gave you some thoughts, things that the schedule is out. You're looking at it. You're going to start plotting some things. But keep one thing in mind. If you bet now, you're going to be tying up that money for 4 months, okay? So you better be pretty flush with some cash if you want to have any money left for when changes start occurring. And they definitely will, no doubt about it. So thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow at 12 noon right here from Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day. And if you're going to be betting, I hope you have a profitable day as well. Goodbye, everybody.